Somewhere in a climate-controlled garage in Ohio, there's a Camaro worth more than your house. You've never seen it. You never will. Only 2 people alive know exactly where it is. 69 of them were built. Fewer than 20 are confirmed to still exist. And the ones that survive don't go to Cars and Coffee. They go into vaults. This is the story of the muscle cars that were built to disappear. Not because they were bad, because they were too good, too rare, and too dangerous to the bottom line. General Motors had a rule in 1969. No engine over 400 cubic inches in an F-body. Officially. Unofficially, a Chevy dealer in Nickerson, Ohio picked up the phone. His name was Don Yenko, and he found the loophole GM never closed. Copo, Central Office Production Order, built for fleet trucks and taxis. Nobody at GM read the fine print. Yenko used it to order 69 Camaros with the 427 cubic inch L72 big block, straight from the factory. Off the books, officially on them. 425 horsepower on paper. Independent dyno tests in 1969 put the real number closer to 450. GM never wanted the public to know their own paperwork built the fastest Camaro in the lineup. When corporate found out, they shut the loophole in weeks. 69 cars. That's the entire run. Forever. Today, a documented ZL1 Copo Camaro sells for over $800,000 at auction. That's why you don't see one parked next to a Malibu at your local show. The insurance alone would end the event. But the Camaro wasn't the only factory ghost built to get around corporate policy. 1971, Plymouth built the Hemi Cuda convertible, the rarest muscle car most people have never heard of. Chrysler built exactly 11, not 1,100. 11. Muscle car sales were already collapsing under insurance surcharges. Chrysler kept building the Hemi anyway, almost as a middle finger to the market. 426 cubic inches, 425 horsepower on the factory sheet. Dealers couldn't move them. Some Hemi Cudas sat on dealer lots for over a year, discounted, ignored. One of those 11 convertibles sold new for around $5,300. In 2014, one of them sold at Mecum auctions for $3.5 million. That is not a typo. That is the single largest price ever paid for an American muscle car. Nobody drives that car to Cars and Coffee. It doesn't leave the vault it lives in. You want to know why these cars vanished from public life? It's simple. They stopped being cars and became assets. An asset doesn't get rained on. It doesn't get a rock chip from a gravel lot behind a diner. So the rarest cars in muscle car history are the ones you're least likely to ever see running. Take the Yenko Deuce. Most people have never even said the name out loud. 1970, Yenko wanted to build a 427 Nova. GM said no. Too small a car for that much engine, corporate said. Yenko went around them again. He built it with a 350 as a decoy, then swapped in the real engine after delivery. Fewer than 175 Deuces were built this way. Estimates on how many survive today range from 30 to maybe 50. Most owners had no idea what they actually bought. GM never advertised it. Chevrolet corporate never approved it on paper. That means most Deuces were driven like regular Novas, traded in, junked, crushed. The ones that survived only survived because somebody, somewhere, refused to let go. That's the pattern across every one of these cars. Survival by accident, not by plan. Ford has its own ghost. The 1969 Boss 429 wasn't even built to race on the street. It existed for one reason only: NASCAR homologation. Ford needed 500 street cars to legalize the 429 Semi-Hemi for NASCAR racing. The engine barely fit in the Mustang. Carcraft had to widen the shock towers by hand. Every single one. 859 were built total across 2 years. That engine never once raced in the actual street car it was built for. Ford built a race engine, put it in a street car nobody could really drive hard, and then never raced that exact car. That's the loophole. That's the whole scheme. Build the minimum, satisfy the rule book, race a completely different chassis. Today, documented numbers matching Boss 429s regularly clear $250,000. Some have hit $500,000. You will not see one at a Saturday cruise-in. The owners know exactly what they're sitting on. Here's the part nobody talks about. Rarity isn't always heroic. Sometimes it's just a factory mistake nobody bothered to fix. The 1970 AMC Rebel Machine. Built by a company most people forgot made muscle cars at all. AMC needed a halo car to prove they belonged in the fight. They built 2,326 total. Most sources agree fewer than 100 survive in original spec. 390 cubic inches, 340 horsepower. On paper, competitive with anything from Detroit's Big Three. But nobody trusted the AMC badge the way they trusted a bow tie or a blue oval. So it sold in the hundreds, not thousands. That commercial failure is exactly why it's rare now. Low production plus low survival equals a car nobody at your local show has ever seen in person. Now, here's where the story turns, because rarity isn't just about production numbers. It's about what happens to a car after it leaves the factory. Take the 1969 Dodge Daytona and its cousin, the Plymouth Superbird. Built for one purpose: NASCAR aerodynamics. 503 Daytonas, 1,035 Superbirds. Dealers hated them. The nose cone made them nearly impossible to sell to a regular buyer. Some dealers cut the wings off, removed the nose cones, sold them as regular Chargers and Roadrunners just to move inventory, which means an unknown number of original wing cars were physically destroyed by the people who sold them new. A factory-built rarity and dealer stupidity made it rarer. Nobody planned that. It just happened. A documented Daytona with the 426 Hemi has sold north of $900,000 at auction. That's not a car anyone risks parking on grass next to 100 strangers with camera phones. So here's the pattern across every one of these cars. Write it down if you're taking notes. 1. Built through a corporate loophole nobody meant to leave open. 2. Sold poorly at the time because insurance, economics, or brand trust worked against them. 3. Survived only because somebody stubborn refused to scrap, modify, or sell one for parts. 4. Once the auction houses found them, the price made them too valuable to drive, let alone show. That's the whole cycle. Loophole, failure, survival, vault. Every single car on this list follows it. And it explains something every car show regular already suspects but rarely says out loud. The cars at the show are not the best cars. They're the ones common enough and cheap enough to actually risk driving. The real legends are somewhere else entirely, in a trust fund's storage unit, in a museum basement, in a collection with an NDA attached to the appraisal. Some of these owners won't even confirm the car exists publicly because doing so invites a security risk they don't want. That's not paranoia. In 2015, a documented Hemi Cuda was targeted in an attempted theft from a private collection in Michigan. When a car is worth more than a house, it stops being a car show attraction. It becomes a target. So the next time you walk a car show and think you've seen it all, you haven't. You've seen the survivors that were common enough to risk. The real rarities are still hiding, on purpose. That's the truth the auction houses profit from and the shows can't compete with. Money doesn't like an audience, it likes a vault. 69 Copo Camaros, 11 Hemi Cuda convertibles, under 175 Yenko Deuces. Every one of them a factory ghost hiding in plain sight of history. The drag strip never lied about what these cars could do. The market never lied about what they're worth now. The only lie was ever the idea that you'd get to see one in person. Most of us never will. And now you know exactly why. If you've ever actually seen one of these cars in person, tell us where and when in the comments. That story deserves to be on record. But rarity alone never made these cars legends. It's what they proved on the day someone finally raced them. Take the 1969 Yenko Camaro. Only 201 were built. Fewer than 20 are confirmed to still exist today. Chevrolet never wanted that car to exist. Yenko built it by going around corporate policy entirely. That's the pattern. Every car on this list exists because one man ignored a memo he wasn't supposed to ignore. The insurance companies wrote the rules. The engineers found the loopholes. The cars you'll never see are the receipts. And when they finally lined up at the strip, most of these cars ran quarter-mile times the factory refused to publish. A sub-13-second ET in 1969 in a car with a base sticker price under $3,000. That number alone should have made it famous. Instead, it made it a target. Production got quietly killed the following year. So here's the part nobody at the car show tells you. Rarity wasn't an accident of history. It was damage control. Every one of these cars got built, got noticed, and got shut down inside a single model year. That's not coincidence. That's a pattern with a paper trail. Detroit built the fastest cars in the world for about 18 months, then spent the next 50 years pretending it never happened. That's why the survivors are worth what they're worth now. A documented numbers-matching example can clear 7 figures at auction. Not because it's pretty, because it's proof. Proof that the story you were told about that era is incomplete. These weren't the cars that lost. These were the cars that won so hard the people in charge had to erase them. And that's the verdict this whole list points to. Not one banned engine, not one canceled program. An entire era buried on purpose. You don't see these cars at shows because they were never meant to survive long enough to get there. The fact that a handful still exist, still run, still turn a quarter mile, that's the real story, not the rarity. The Defiance. Somewhere right now, one of these cars is sitting under a cover in a garage nobody's opened in a decade. That's not a sad ending, that's the whole point. These cars were built to outlast the people who tried to bury them. So next time someone tells you they've seen every rare muscle car worth seeing, ask them about the ones that got killed before the paperwork even cleared. That's the real list. Not the cars you'll never see, the cars they never wanted you to look for in the first place. Subscribe if you want the next one on record before it disappears again, and check the playlist. The receipts are all there.